Intro. You chose this life. Have you ever looked at your life, your heartbreaks, your failures, even your deepest longings, and asked, why me? The truth might shake you. You chose this. Every moment of pain, every moment of breakthrough, every person who entered your life, whether to love you, teach you, or break you, you chose all of it, not from a place of punishment or fate, but from a higher intelligence, from the seat of your soul. Before you were born, you existed in a dimension beyond time and matter, a place where your consciousness could see the full arc of your human journey, start to finish. And from that elevated view, you crafted the blueprint of your life, not to suffer, but to evolve, because evolution doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in contrast, in friction, in the places where you're forced to remember who you truly are. But here's the problem. This truth that you're not a victim of life, but the architect of it, has been buried, not just forgotten, but actively hidden. Why? Because a disempowered mind is easy to manage. A soul that forgets its origins will hand over its power willingly, through media, through culture, through unconscious conditioning. You've been taught to believe you're small, random, replaceable. This is not accidental. It's programming, and it's been passed down for generations. But you're here now, and you're starting to remember. If something in you still remembers beneath the noise, beneath the fear that you are more, then this message isn't new. It's ancient, and it's calling you back to remember why you chose this life. You must go back to the moment before time, where your soul wrote the first line of your human story. Before your first breath, there was intention, not coincidence, not chance, but design. A conscious choice made in a realm beyond the physical. In Tibetan Buddhism, this space is called the Bardo, the realm between death and rebirth. A space where time dissolves, identity loosens, and your soul, unburdened by memory or form, floats in clarity, free of ego, free of fear, fully aware of its eternal nature. Hermetic teachings call this the plane of causation, the source field, where all things physical are conceived as vibration first. Here, every outcome begins as an idea. Every event starts as a frequency. In this higher state of awareness, you weren't struggling. You weren't afraid. You were expansive, intelligent, connected. You saw your soul's entire journey stretched across lifetimes. And from that view, you chose this life. Not every detail, but every lesson. You selected the soul agreements, the environments, and the emotional codes that would shape your evolution, not to suffer, but to grow. To remember who you are through contrast. Imagine a realm filled with light and intelligence, what some call the Soul Council. You sat among your guides, mentors, and spiritual allies. Together, you drafted your soul blueprint, a multi-dimensional energy structure imprinted with lessons, timing, archetypes, and potential. This wasn't fate in the rigid sense. It was intention, with freedom. Think of it like a quantum map filled with nodes of possibility. The destinations were chosen, but the roads remain fluid. And here's what's fascinating. This is not just metaphysical poetry. thousands of near-death experiences, NDEs, echo the same truth. People across cultures, ages, and belief systems describe the same experience when clinically dead. They witness a panoramic review of their life. They recall a realm of total love and clarity, and they remember choosing to return, because something in their soul still had work to do. In that pre-birth realm, the soul sees the ripple effect of every decision. It understands how heartbreak becomes compassion, how loss becomes empathy, how limitation becomes strength. And from that awareness it says, yes, yes, I'll go back. Yes, I'll forget. Yes, I'll learn. You can think of your current life like a film, but you're not just the actor. You're also the director, the writer, the producer. You wrote the script. You stepped into it fully, knowing you'd forget. Forgetting wasn't an accident, it was the mechanism. Because growth doesn't come from knowing, it comes from not knowing. You don't evolve by memorizing truth. You evolve by embodying it, one choice at a time. Still, your soul left you breadcrumbs, moments that feel like déjà vu, dreams that linger, people you meet and instantly feel, I know you. That subtle inner pull that keeps calling you to something more. Those are the whispers of your soul breaking through the veil. And yes, there is a veil. It's not a punishment, it's protection. If you remembered every lifetime, every wound, every triumph, you'd be overwhelmed. The veil allows you to begin again. It invites you into the present. It gives you space to make choices, not based on memory, but on resonance. But the truth always finds a way. And when you begin to awaken, when you stop asking, why is this happening to me, and instead ask, why might I have chosen this? Everything starts to shift. The patterns make more sense. The pain reveals its purpose. And the fear starts to fade. Now, let's go deeper. But even the most sovereign soul doesn't design alone. Because evolution doesn't happen in isolation, it happens in reflection. You planned it with soul groups, souls you've traveled with across lifetimes. They play different roles, each time a parent, a lover, a rival, a stranger who changes everything. Together, you made contracts not to hurt each other, but to help each other awaken. Even if that help came wrapped in heartbreak, these soul contracts aren't chains. They're invitations. And you're free to evolve beyond them at any time. You can forgive. You can reframe. You can rewrite. But what's important is this. Nothing that has happened in your life is random. Everything is encoded with potential. And that potential lives in your blueprint. What is that? Exactly. Think of it like a frequency grid, a multi-layered field of energy that holds your purpose, your patterns, and your possibilities. It's not fate, it's resonance. It adjusts as you grow. It responds to your choices. It's alive with feedback loops and synchronicities. The more aligned you are with your soul's intent, the more effortless life becomes. Doors open, people appear. Timing becomes precise. But the more you resist your path through denial, fear, or unconsciousness, the more resistance you feel. Your soul is not here to punish you. It's here to awaken you to your power, your sovereignty, your role in the grand design of reality itself. So the question is not, why did this happen to me? The question is, what was I trying to learn when I chose this? because you did choose it. And if you chose it, you can change it. You're not broken, you're in bloom. You're not stuck, you're in a sacred unraveling. And this is just the beginning. And if you chose the pain, then you also chose the mirrors, the people, the ones who would reflect your light and your shadows. Because no soul evolves alone. You designed them with a circle of ancient allies, souls who've walked lifetimes beside you. Before you were born, your soul didn't plan this life alone. You came here as part of a greater network, a soul family, not just relatives by blood, but souls who've journeyed with you across many lifetimes. Some would return as protectors, some as mirrors, some as stormbringers who would shake everything loose so your truth could rise. Why? Because evolution doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in relationship. In the higher realms, what Tibetan mystics call the bardo, or what Hermetic teachings refer to as the causal plane, your soul met with others, and together you formed contracts. Not scripts set in stone, but sacred agreements. Energy, blueprints, created with purpose. These soul contracts fall into different forms. First, soul supporters. These are the souls who lift you, the ones who show up when you're lost, and somehow know exactly what to say. They're the old friends you just met. The people who see your light even when you've forgotten it. Their role, to remind you of who you are. Second, mirror souls. They come to reflect your shadow, not to harm you, but to show you what still needs healing. The parent who triggers you, the lover who abandons you, the boss who keeps pushing your boundaries. They're not mistakes. They're teachers. Third, twin flames. This is the most intense soul contract of all. Not always romantic. Not always meant to stay. Twin flames are a single soul, split across two forms. They mirror you, your fears, your wounds, your gifts. When they arrive, they don't just change your life. They ignite it. Awakening happens fast, rough, and irreversible. But remember, these contracts are not cages. They're invitations to evolve, to choose growth over reaction, to remember what you came here to learn. And you're never alone in this. Beyond human connections, you also have soul guides, beings of light, ancient, wise, connected to you across time and dimension. Some have lived as humans. Others exist purely in spirit. Their job not to control you, but to remind you, to send signals through dreams, synchronicities, gut feelings, and quiet, knowing you felt them. In those moments where you just knew, in the choice that didn't make sense but felt exactly right. That's them, whispering through the veil. But here's the thing, guidance doesn't matter if you're not listening. The most powerful guides can only speak to the part of you that's awake, and present, and willing to follow through. So how do you know when a soul contract is playing out? It usually starts with intensity. That person you can't forget. That moment that cracked something open. A soul contract is almost always charged, emotional, alive. It repeats in patterns, the same type of relationship, in a different body. The same lesson, louder each time. Until you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what is this trying to teach me? Because awareness ends the cycle. Once you see the contract for what it is, you have a choice: to fulfill it consciously or to walk away with wisdom. Let's be clear, not all soul contracts are meant to last forever. Some come just to break you open, to push you one step closer to alignment. And once their purpose is complete, it's okay to release them. That's not failure. That's fulfillment. Every soul you meet is either returning something to you or revealing something inside you. Some are karmic, bringing energy back into balance. Others are dharmic, helping you step into purpose. And a few are simply sacred echoes meeting you in this life, as they have many times before. And you chose all of this not as punishment, but as preparation. You agreed to meet these people, to walk through these experiences, to either remember who you are or to become who you're meant to be. This is the real power of sacred contracts. They're not there to control you. They're there to wake you. So now, take a moment. Think of someone in your life who's challenged you deeply. What if their presence isn't a mistake, but a message? What if they signed that contract with you, not to hurt you, but to stretch you? Maybe the pain is the pressure that forms the diamond. Maybe the chaos is the crack through which the light gets in. These agreements, these soul-level bonds, they didn't just shape who you meet. They shaped how your whole journey would unfold. So, to truly understand your path, we need to look at the blueprint behind it. Not in words, but in energy. Not every relationship in your life is random. In fact, some of the people who've impacted you most, whether through love or pain, were already part of your story before you were even born. This is what we call a soul contract, an agreement made on the soul level, long before you took your first breath. Not a punishment, not a reward, but a sacred design created for your evolution. These contracts are made with the souls of your parents, your partners, your greatest teachers, and even those who hurt you. Why? Because every soul in your life, whether they break you or build you, is there to help you remember who you are. Soul contracts with parents, the original mirror. You didn't just end up with your family by accident. You chose them. On a soul level, you knew. These two people will give me exactly what I need to begin. That doesn't mean it was easy. Some chose parents who would love and support them. Others chose parents who would abandon, control, or disappoint them. But all of it, every moment, was chosen with purpose. Why? Because challenge creates identity. And your early environment was the clay that helped mold your human self. A distant father might teach you how to trust yourself. A critical mother might push you to find your own voice. It's not about blame, it's about higher context. Soul contracts with lovers and twin flames. Now let's talk about romance. Some souls come into your life to love you gently. Others arrive to burn you alive. Both are sacred. And then there's the twin flame. This isn't just a soulmate. It's a mirror. A person who reflects back your deepest patterns, fears, and wounds. It's intense. It's magnetic. But it's not always meant to last. Twin flames often come not to stay, but to awaken, to tear down the illusions, to crack your heart wide open. Not all love stories are meant to be forever. Some are meant to be a turning point. Soul contracts with enemies and karmic disruptors. Yes, even those who hurt you may be part of the plan. Some souls agree to play the villain so you can learn how to protect your peace, how to set boundaries, how to stop abandoning yourself. These are what we call karmic disruptors. They aren't here to destroy you. They're here to wake you up. It doesn't mean the pain was okay, but it does mean you have the power to transform it. From wound to wisdom, from chaos to clarity. The pattern repeats until you don't. Have you noticed you keep attracting the same kinds of people, the same kind of boss, the same kind of partner, the same emotional patterns on loop? This isn't bad luck. It's a contractual echo, the soul repeating a lesson until you finally see it, until you choose differently, until you break the loop. How you reactivated old contracts without realizing it. Even after a contract is fulfilled, you might still be stuck in the pattern. Why? Because you unconsciously renewed the agreement. You stayed too long. You kept pleasing. You ignored the red flags. Again, this is how the old scripts stay alive. Not because the other person is powerful, but because your identity is still tied to the contract. I must be needed. I must fix others. I must earn love. The soul is ready to graduate, but the ego keeps signing the dotted line. How to end a soul contract with power. You can't erase what happened, but you can change what happens next. Here's how to identify the pattern. What keeps showing up? Name the lesson. What is this relationship trying to teach you? Declare your release. Say it clearly. I no longer need this pain to learn. I choose growth, peace, and alignment now. That's it. That's a new contract, a conscious one, because your voice is a signature and your intention is a portal. Final reminder, soul. Contracts are not meant to imprison you. They're meant to free you. Every soul who crossed your path brought something sacred, a trigger, a mirror, a choice. The real question is, will you keep reacting, or will you finally respond? Because in that response, you stop being a character in someone else's script and start becoming the author of your own. But let's be honest, there's one part of the blueprint that's hardest to accept. The part that broke you, the grief, the betrayal, the loss. Why would any soul say yes to that? Why would any soul say yes to heartbreak, loss, or betrayal on purpose? To answer that, we have to go deeper into what the soul values most. And it's not comfort, it's evolution. Coming up next. Have you ever asked yourself, why would any soul willingly choose suffering? Why choose heartbreak, loss, abandonment, betrayal? It seems illogical until you remember this. The soul doesn't evolve through comfort. It evolves through contrast. Pain is not punishment. It's a portal from the human mind. Pain feels like something gone wrong. From the soul's perspective, it's something breaking open, not to destroy you, but to reveal what was asleep. Pain isn't here to punish. It's here to awaken. It's the knock on the door that no one wants to answer. But that always brings the exact lesson the soul came to learn. When we suffer, we search deeper. We reach for meaning. We start asking the real questions. That's when growth begins. Some teachings call this divine discontent, the aching that pushes you out of autopilot and back into alignment. The blueprint of transformation. Before you were born, your soul didn't say, "Give me an easy life." It said, "Give me the lessons I need to remember who I am." So you designed challenges not to break you, but to shape you. A broken heart might teach you boundaries. A betrayal might teach you discernment. A devastating loss might reconnect you with the sacred. And yes, sometimes the pain doesn't come with clear meaning. Sometimes it's just raw, heavy, and unjust. But even then, you're being called inward. The soul doesn't measure pain in terms of fairness. It measures it in terms of expansion, karmic threads, and unfinished stories. Often, the pain you experience is not just about this lifetime. It's a continuation of a karmic thread, a story that began long before you were born. Imagine unresolved emotion, betrayal, or injustice carried forward like energetic weight. Your soul carries it, not as a burden, but as an opportunity to bring closure. This is why some wounds feel older than this life, because they are. This is also why certain people trigger you more deeply than makes logical sense, because they're part of that same karmic script, not to harm you, but to complete the story. And completing that story isn't about revenge. It's about release, pain, as initiation. In nearly every mystical tradition, pain is the beginning of initiation. In mythology, heroes never awaken in times of ease. They awaken in the underworld, in the darkness, in the collapse. Why? Because collapse is what forces rebirth. When your identity cracks, your essence emerges. There's something sacred about being brought to your knees, because that's where you finally stop pretending and start listening. And it's there, in the silence after the storm, that your soul speaks most clearly. Your pain has a pulse. Sit with this for a moment. Your pain is intelligent. It's not just random suffering. It's data. It's a pulse, a signal. When you feel hurt, abandoned, rejected, ask, what is this trying to teach me? What is this awakening in me? Sometimes the answer won't come right away, but the act of asking shifts you out of victimhood and into agency. You're no longer just enduring the pain, you're engaging with it. You're extracting wisdom. Don't bypass the pain. Transmute it. This isn't about denying your hurt or positive thinking your way out. This is about honoring the wound and asking what it's here to reveal. Pain doesn't need to be hidden or silenced. It needs to be witnessed, felt, moved through. When you repress it, it becomes trauma. When you meet it with presence, it becomes fuel. You transmute pain not by ignoring it, but by letting it break something false inside you so that something true can rise. And the truth that rises is unshakable. Closing reflection. So why does the soul choose pain? Because the soul chooses growth. And growth doesn't happen in safety, it happens in the stretch. In this lifetime, pain has come not to crush you, but to carve you, to chisel away the illusions, to burn off what isn't yours. Pain is a spiritual scalpel cutting away everything that isn't you so that you can finally remember what is. And as you sit with that truth, remember this: you are not the pain. You are the one who will rise from it. And pain isn't random, it's often karmic. And to understand that karma, we need to go back farther than this life, farther than this moment, back to the soul's silent agreements. You've heard the word karma thrown around like a casual punchline, but karma isn't about revenge, and it's definitely not the universe punishing you. Karma is law, one of the oldest, most precise, and most misunderstood energetic laws in existence. It's not emotional. It doesn't judge. It simply responds. Karma is the invisible thread that links your actions, thoughts, and intentions across lifetimes. It's not some cosmic payback system. It's a loop, a pattern, a mirror, reflecting the energy you've put out until you integrate the lesson behind it. The architecture of karma. Every choice you've made, every thought, word, or intention has an energetic signature, and like a boomerang, it returns to you, not always in the same form, not always in the same lifetime, but always with the same lesson. Karma is your soul's built-in feedback system. It's how the universe helps you evolve, not through reward and punishment, but through resonance and reflection. So what exactly does that mean? It means if you abuse power in one life, you may experience powerlessness in another, so you can learn empathy. If you betray someone in one lifetime, you may feel that same betrayal in another, so you understand trust. If you silence your truth, you may be born into circumstances that force you to reclaim your voice. The goal, not to make you suffer, but to help you remember who you are and what you're here to master. Karma isn't a life sentence. Here's the truth. Most people don't understand. Karma is not your fate. It's your teacher. You are not bound by your past. You are only bound by your unconscious repetition of it, because karma repeats itself until you become aware of it. That's how the pattern breaks. Pattern recognition when karma is speaking. You'll know karma is active when you start to feel like you're stuck in a loop. Same kind of partner, different name. Same job dynamic, different boss. Same internal frustration, showing up in new forms. It feels like déjà vu, but louder. That's not coincidence. It's curriculum. The moment you become conscious of it, the moment you stop reacting the same way, is the moment karma begins to dissolve. Because karma feeds off unconsciousness. It thrives in reaction. It unravels with awareness. Karma, across lifetimes. Some of your most powerful karmic imprints didn't start in this life. They're echoes of past incarnations. The child born into poverty, the woman betrayed in every relationship, the man who feels invisible in every room. These are not punishments. They are invitations to remember, to complete what was left unfinished, to reclaim what was once abandoned. When you understand this, your entire perspective shifts. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this here to teach me?" Action, intention. Energy karma doesn't just track what you do, it responds to why you do it. Two people can perform the same act, but if one acts from love and the other from manipulation, the karmic ripples are entirely different. Intention is everything, and energy never lies. This is why your soul can't fake alignment. It only responds to truth, to resonance, to what's real. Free will and karma, the intersection. Now here's where it gets powerful. You have free will, always. Karma may be the backdrop, but your choices are the script. The patterns you inherited are not prisons. They're portals, and every moment is a new choice. To keep reliving the loop, or to step out of it completely. That's where your sovereignty lives. Breaking the cycle, how to transmute karma. You don't get rid of karma by running from it. You transmute it by facing it consciously, with awareness, with compassion, and with new behavior. Here's how you begin. Identify the pattern. Notice what keeps repeating in your life. Write it down. Name it. Awareness is the first crack in the illusion. Feel it. Fully, don't bypass the emotion behind the experience. Feel the grief, anger, fear, or whatever arises. That's your portal. Shift the response. The next time the pattern shows up, pause. Respond from a new level of consciousness. Choose what your old self couldn't. Anchor the integration. Create a new belief, a new behavior, one that reflects who you are now, not who you were when the pattern began. This is how karma becomes evolution, not repetition. Closing thought. Karma is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It reflects what you're ready to heal and what you're strong enough now to face. So don't fear it. Study it. Learn from it. And most of all, break the loop by becoming the version of you who no longer needs the lesson. Because the moment you choose differently, you collapse the old timeline and unlock the one your soul has been waiting for. So the loop is clear. The karma is visible. But the next question is, can you change it? Can you reprogram the path? Shift the outcome without erasing the blueprint. That's where free will steps in. Destiny is not a prison. It's a pattern. And you were born with the only key that can rewrite it: choice. This is the paradox of free will and destiny. Your soul created the blueprint, your gifts, your challenges, your key relationships. But the moment you entered this body, something powerful was given to you. The power to choose, the power to diverge from the script and explore alternate timelines of your evolution. Let's break this down. Think of destiny not as a path, but as a structure. It holds certain energetic coordinates, lessons your soul came to learn, people your soul agreed to meet, thresholds your soul designed to cross. But how you move through that structure, that's up to your free will. That's where your conscious power begins. Imagine your life like a GPS. The destination: growth, awakening, soul remembrance has been programmed in, but the route, that's entirely up to you. You can take the scenic way, the hard way, the fast track, or go in circles. And every turn you take reshapes the timeline you're living on. Here's where it gets profound. Every decision you make, every thought you dwell on, broadcasts a frequency, and that frequency aligns you with one of many parallel timelines, realities that already exist as quantum potentials. Science is starting to catch up. In quantum physics, there's a concept known as the multiverse. It suggests that every choice spawns a new version of reality. You choose love over fear. One timeline. You choose self-betrayal. Another. And each of these realities exists simultaneously in the quantum field, waiting for your vibration to collapse one into form. This means you're never stuck. You're just resonating with a timeline that reflects your current frequency. But you can shift at any moment, not by trying harder, but by choosing differently. Let's talk about the mechanism of that shift. You don't leap into a better reality through force. You shift through alignment. You shift when your thoughts, actions, and emotions synchronize with the timeline you desire to live. For example, if your highest timeline involves deep connection and creative fulfillment, you must think, feel, and act in ways that align with someone already living that. You don't wait until circumstances change. You become the version of yourself who already lives in that reality. And when you do, reality starts to mirror that frequency. This is what ancient traditions meant when they said, "As within, so without." The outer world is a reflection of the inner vibration, but let's go even deeper. Why does free will matter so much? Because choice is the soul's gym. It's how the soul builds discernment. It's how you learn, not by being told what's right, but by choosing what's true for you, again and again. Free will is the divine instrument of evolution. It's not just about choosing what feels good. It's about choosing what's aligned, even when it's uncomfortable. And that's where growth lives. Many people misunderstand spiritual awakening. They think it means transcending all choices, floating above the world, unaffected. But true awakening is learning how to choose in alignment with your higher self, while being fully present in the world. And that's not always easy, because ego loves safety. Ego craves repetition, and it will try to pull you back into the timeline that's most familiar, even if it's painful. That's why awareness is everything. Every time you pause and ask, is this choice coming from fear or from truth? You reclaim your free will. You interrupt the program. You step off the default timeline and onto a chosen one. This is the gateway to mastery, because the soul doesn't evolve just through knowledge. It evolves through embodied choice, through the real-time dance of awareness, courage, and energetic coherence. So, if you're facing a crossroads, know this: you're not being tested. You're being invited to become the next version of yourself. And that version already exists, in a timeline where you've said yes to your purpose, where you've left the old story behind, where you've stopped waiting and started embodying the truth that was in you all along. You don't need to force the shift. You just need to make one brave choice, and then another. Because timelines aren't found, they're activated, and free will is the key. But if your soul designed the map, why are you born without the memory? Why does waking up feel like searching through fog? Before you were born, your soul remembered everything, every lifetime, every lesson, every sacred contract. But the moment you entered this world, that memory faded. You forgot who you were. You forgot why you came, and for good reason. This forgetting isn't a flaw, it's a feature. What many spiritual traditions call the veil is not a punishment, it's protection. Imagine arriving into this world carrying the full emotional weight of every previous lifetime. Regrets, grief, betrayals, victories, unfinished love, ancient pain layered across thousands of years. It would overwhelm your nervous system. So, the veil is mercy. It gives your soul a fresh start, an empty canvas, not to erase the past, but to allow you to live this life fully, to make choices freely, unburdened by the echoes of who you used to be. In Tibetan teachings, this veil is part of the bardo process, the soul's transition into a new incarnation. In energy psychology, it mirrors a kind of collective amnesia, a necessary forgetfulness that allows human consciousness to focus in rather than collapse under too much multidimensional data. In neuroscience, we can even trace a parallel in how early childhood amnesia functions. Your brain naturally forgets much of its earliest experience to conserve energy, filter reality, and make space for what matters now. In both cases, forgetting serves function. But here's the part most people miss. The forgetting is never total B. The soul leaves breadcrumbs, tiny whispers through dreams, unexplainable fears, instant connections with strangers, déjà vu that makes no logical sense, the pull toward a certain place, a certain person, a certain path. These are echoes of your soul memory. They are not loud, but they are persistent. The veil dims the memory, but never deletes the mission. That's why you can walk into a room and instantly know who to trust. Why you might feel called to a certain kind of work, or feel irrational resistance to it. It's why healing sometimes begins before a wound is fully named. Carl Jung once said, "The soul knows what it needs for healing long before the mind does." And that's the key. Your soul still remembers. You may forget with your mind, but you recognize with your energy. Have you ever wondered why certain patterns repeat in your life? Even when you swear you've outgrown them, it's not because you're stuck. It's because the lesson was chosen, and your soul is pulling you toward the curriculum, even if your conscious self resists it. The veil does not disconnect you from your path. It simply softens the noise, so you can choose again with intention. But it doesn't mean you're lost. Intuition is memory in disguise. Synchronicity is the soul's GPS. Every insight, every random moment of clarity is the veil thinning for just a breath to remind you why you're here. Now, here's the powerful part. The thinner the veil gets, the more responsibility you carry. Because to remember, even just a little, is to awaken. And awakening doesn't mean escaping your life. It means engaging with it differently. It means asking deeper questions. It means responding to conflict, not from history, but from clarity. It means living this life as if your soul designed it on purpose, because it did. So, how do you work with the veil? You don't rip it off. You gently listen through it. You track the breadcrumbs. Start by honoring the intuitive nudges. Keep a journal of moments that feel out of time, where something ancient stirred inside you. Pay attention to recurring symbols in your dreams, the places that feel like déjà vu, or emotions that don't seem to belong to your current story. These are invitations, not mysteries. Meditation, breathwork, deep self-inquiry. These are tools that help you hear through the static. They don't remove the veil. They help you see what's behind it more clearly. The more presence you bring into your daily life, the more your soul can speak. Remember, forgetting was part of the plan. But so is remembering. You don't need to recall every past life or every sacred contract to live with purpose. You just need to trust the moments when truth rises uninvited. Because the veil doesn't mean you're blind. It means you've been invited to remember through experience, not memory. And when you start honoring those subtle inner truths, the veil begins to thin. And in that thinning, you don't just remember your soul, you begin to live from it. But the soul doesn't just remember, it designs. And the way it designs is through karmic balance. Have you ever had a moment so precise, so oddly timed, that it felt orchestrated, like life was speaking directly to you? A glance, a number, a lyric you didn't expect yet needed. These aren't accidents. They're alignments. These aren't accidents. They are soul signals, subtle, symbolic threads woven into your path, designed to guide you home. Long before you were born, your soul mapped out a journey. But once you entered this life, you forgot that map. So it left clues. Clues hidden in what we now call synchronicities and déjà vu. Synchronicity, the language of alignment. The psychologist Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe what he called meaningful coincidences, events that seem random, yet carry deep personal significance. You've seen it before. You think of someone, and a second later, they text you. You're at a crossroads in life, and the exact phrase you needed appears on a billboard. You keep seeing the same, number 1111, 222 so often. It begins to feel like a cosmic code. This is not coincidence. It's a conversation between your soul and the universe, a vibrational dialogue confirming that you're aligned with your path. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions emit a frequency. When that frequency is in harmony with your soul's blueprint, life reflects it back through synchronicity. It's like hitting a tuning fork, and the world vibrates in resonance. Déjà vu, a glitch in the veil. Then there's that haunting sense. I've been here before. You step into a room, meet a stranger, or witness a moment, and it feels eerily familiar. Modern science calls it a neurological misfire, but ancient mystics call it something else. Déjà vu is not our memory glitch. It's a soul memory, a bleed-through from another life, or a flash from a moment you planned before you were born. It's your higher self whispering, "You've seen this. You chose this." Now, pay attention. Many spiritual traditions teach that when déjà vu happens, you are at a checkpoint, a turning point designed to wake you up, to remind you that you're not lost. Just remembering, the soul speaks in symbols. Here's what most people miss. Your soul doesn't speak in English. It speaks in vibration, in imagery, in metaphor and emotional resonance. You won't hear it through logic. You feel it through patterns. A song lyric that won't leave your head. A repeated dream. A face that feels like a memory. These are messages, but only if you're willing to interpret. So how do you begin to listen? Practice tuning into the soul's voice. Step 1. Stillness is the signal amplifier. Take 2 minutes a day to sit in silence. No scrolling. No agenda. Just be. Most people don't hear their guidance, not because it's missing, but because their inner world is too loud to receive it. Step 2. Start a synchronicity journal. Each time something unusual catches your attention, a recurring number, a powerful dream, an intuitive pull, write it down. Over time, you'll see connections form. What felt like noise becomes language. Step 3. Ask and receive yes. You can ask your soul, or the universe, for a sign. Say it out loud. If this path is aligned for me, show me a white feather within 24 hours. The feather isn't magic. Your attention is. You're aligning yourself to the frequency of confirmation. This is how you build trust with the unseen through small signals that ripple into bigger clarity. Inner guidance is the real GPS. Here's a truth that's rarely spoken in spiritual circles. You don't need more answers. You need more inner listening. The intuitive pull. The inner yes or no you can't explain. The sudden urge to leave. Or the magnetic draw to stay. That's your soul's compass. It doesn't shout, but it never lies. And the more you trust it, the clearer it becomes. Like any muscle, it strengthens through use. When you start following this guidance, life begins to feel responsive, alive, conversational, because it is. Reclaiming ancient wisdom. Now here's the twist. These synchronicities, these symbolic nudges, they're not new. They're ancient. Your soul is drawing on truths preserved in sacred texts, mystery schools, and teachings that were once common knowledge before they were buried. From the Emerald Tablet to the Bhagavad Gita, from druidic symbols to indigenous dreams, our ancestors knew this. The universe is interactive. Reality is symbolic, and consciousness leaves clues. We don't live in a dead world. We live in a responsive one. And you are in constant dialogue with it. So next time you feel that tingle of déjà vu, next time life moves with a precision too perfect to ignore, pause, ask, listen, because the message isn't random. It's remembering. And if you follow the thread, it might lead you all the way back to the sacred teachings that were hidden to protect this truth. Your life is not a mistake. It is a message, a symbol, and the universe is waiting for you to read it. Now, let's go deeper, because those signals you're receiving, they all point to something ancient, powerful, and beautifully forbidden. And it's time you remember. The ancient truths were never lost. They were hidden, protected, waiting for one moment in history to re-emerge. And that moment is now. Across time and culture, echoes of a deeper reality have survived. Fragments of forgotten wisdom preserved in sacred texts, oral traditions, and esoteric schools. From the Emerald Tablet to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, to the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas of India, these weren't just spiritual writings. They were blueprints for how to navigate consciousness itself. Let's begin with the Emerald Tablet, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. One line, as above, so below, encapsulates an entire worldview, that the cosmos and your inner world are reflections of the same source. That reality is not solid. It's responsive, mirrored, designed by vibration. In the West, these hermetic teachings were silenced, pushed underground by rising religious orthodoxy, deemed heretical. Why? Because they gave the individual direct access to the divine. No priest, no hierarchy, just you and the source. Meanwhile, in Egypt, the Book of the Dead wasn't a text for mourning. It was a guide, a manual for navigating death and mastering the transitions of the soul. The soul would journey through realms, face tests, and ultimately return to its essence. Sound familiar? Because it echoes what we now call near-death experiences. In the East, Tibetan Buddhism taught the Bardo Thodol, another guide for consciousness between worlds. It told us death isn't an end. It's a transition, and if you remain awake during it, you can reach liberation. Further east, in the Vedic and Upanishadic traditions of India, we're told Atman is Brahman. The soul is not separate from God. It is God. Again, the message repeats, you are not apart from the universe. You are it. Even in pre-Roman Europe, the Druids knew this. They read the stars, understood energy lines, and believed trees were ancient beings, elders, but they were conquered, silenced, because they didn't fit into systems of control. The same fate met the Gnostics, the Essenes, and countless wisdom keepers around the world. Why? Because they taught self-initiation, personal alignment, energetic sovereignty. And when people wake up, they become impossible to manipulate. So the stories were edited, the scrolls burned, the temples buried, but the essence survived. You can still find it in sacred geometry, in the layout of temples, in mandalas, labyrinths, and pyramids that appear on every continent before global contact, coincidence or memory. And then there's the Bhagavad Gita, a battle between soul and ego, a dialogue between man and divinity. It wasn't about war. It was about awakening, about learning to act from truth, not fear, to follow Dharma, even when it costs you comfort. But here's the pattern. Every time humanity nears the truth, a system rises to bury it. Why? Because truth liberates, and a liberated soul can't be controlled. When you realize you are not broken, not separate, not sinful, but divine, the matrix collapses. That's why these teachings were hidden, not because they were false, but because they were too true. And now, they're coming back. Because you're ready. Because humanity is remembering. Because science is catching up. Neuroscience confirms what yogis have practiced for millennia, that breath shifts brainwaves. That meditation rewires the nervous system. That consciousness influences matter. What does that mean for you? It means you no longer have to guess. You don't need someone else to approve your awakening. You just need to listen, to remember, and to embody the one thing they never wanted you to realize. You are the divine. You are the architect. You are the energy. And you've always had the map. Now the map is in your hands. The only question left is not, what do I do, but will I remember to use it when the world tries to make me forget? But the most radical expression of this wisdom came through one teacher, a man whose energy shook empires and whose deeper teachings were never meant for the masses. Have you ever had a moment, quiet, still, when something inside whispered, "This isn't all there is"? That moment is the beginning of awakening. Awakening isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've always been, before the conditioning, before the fear, before the expectations. You are not your job, not your pain, not even your thoughts. You are consciousness, awake, aware, divine. But let's be honest, awakening isn't always beautiful at first. It's disruptive. It shakes the foundation of your identity, because to awaken is to strip away everything false. And that means letting go of comfort, ego, and illusion. Think of it as a house you've lived in for decades, walls built by other people's expectations, rooms decorated with past traumas, windows clouded by beliefs that were never really yours. And one day, something in you opens a door and realizes you were never locked in. That's the first phase of awakening disruption. Suddenly, the things you used to chase don't fulfill you anymore. You can't tolerate shallow conversations. You begin questioning systems you once trusted: education, religion, even your own thoughts. You start seeing through the mask, even your own. Then comes the second phase, disorientation. This is when your old life no longer fits, but your new self isn't fully formed. You're in the in-between, the sacred void, and it can feel terrifying. Friends may drift. Your job may feel meaningless. You question your sanity. But this is a necessary detox. You're not breaking down. You're breaking through. Then, slowly, comes integration. The third phase. You begin choosing presence over performance, stillness over reaction, alignment over approval. You stop living from your wounds and begin living from your wisdom. You speak softer, but mean more. You do less, but impact more. Because now, your life moves from truth. But how do you know you're awakening? What are the signs? First, your intuition sharpens. You start sensing what's right for you, even when it doesn't make logical sense. You leave rooms you used to force yourself to stay in. You stop explaining your worth. You trust your inner knowing. Second, your relationships shift. Some people fall away, and it hurts. But that loss makes room for deeper connections, ones built on soul resonance, not social convenience. Third, you become more emotionally aware. Instead of reacting on autopilot, you observe. Instead of defending yourself, you choose clarity. You start asking not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this here to teach me?" Fourth, you crave simplicity. Noise becomes unbearable. You start detoxing, not just food, but energy. You unfollow accounts that drain you. You spend more time in nature. You learn that peace isn't found. It's chosen. And finally, you realize you are not separate, not from others, not from the universe. You begin to feel the field of connection, the energetic web that unites all beings. You recognize yourself in strangers. You feel the pain of the world and the hope of something greater both at once. Awakening isn't an escape from reality. It's the most intimate embrace of it. It's learning to sit with your shadow without judging it, to hold your inner child with compassion, to meet every part of you, and still choose love. Now here's the truth. Most avoid awakening doesn't mean you're done. It means you've started. You'll still feel fear. You'll still get triggered. But now, you'll catch yourself. You'll pause. You'll reflect. You'll alchemize the emotion instead of projecting it. This is spiritual maturity. Not floating above life, but standing firmly in it, with an open heart and a clear mind. And the best part, awakening, is contagious, not because you preach, but because you live differently. Your presence becomes permission. Your calm becomes influence. Your alignment becomes a ripple others feel, even if they can't name it. So, where does this path lead? Not to perfection, but to presence. Not to status, but to sovereignty. not to answers, but to deeper, more beautiful questions. The question now is, are you listening? Are you paying attention to the signs, the nudges, the synchronicities? Because when you awaken, you stop surviving. You start remembering. And when you remember, you begin to live differently. There comes a moment subtle, yet undeniable, when you realize you've been living someone else's version of you. Maybe it started with good intentions. You adapted to belong. You shaped your voice to fit the room. You wore the mask that earned approval, and for a while, it worked. You survived. You succeeded. But deep inside, something felt off. Because survival isn't the same as alignment, and being accepted isn't the same as being seen. Living authentically isn't a performance. It's a return to the energetic blueprint your soul designed before you were born. A unique frequency that only you can emit. A rhythm that pulses beneath the noise of expectation, fear, and programming. When you live in alignment with that blueprint, life starts to feel different. Not easier, but more coherent. The anxiety that once lingered like background static begins to fade. The exhaustion of keeping up appearances starts to lift. But what does it mean really to live authentically? It means saying yes only when your soul agrees. It means saying no without apology. It means choosing work, relationships, and habits that reflect your essence, not your conditioning. And most importantly, it means removing the masks. We all wear them. The mask of the reliable one. The mask of the achiever. The mask of the peacemaker. Each one formed from childhood, social pressure, survival instinct, and over time, the mask gets rewarded. So we forget it's not us. We confuse identity with adaptation, and in doing so, we betray the self beneath it. This is where shadow work comes in. Shadow work isn't about fixing yourself. It's about integrating what you've disowned. The parts of you that were once labeled too much, too sensitive, too selfish. You pushed them down to survive. But now, to thrive, you must bring them back into the light. Because the more of yourself you reclaim, the more clearly your soul's blueprint can express itself in the world. Here's the truth. Most avoid living authentically will disrupt the false peace around you. When you stop playing the role others expect, some will resist. They'll question you. They might withdraw. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your truth unsettles the dynamic they depended on. And yet, this is the initiation. You don't align your life by keeping others comfortable. You align by becoming unshakably honest with yourself. What energizes you? What drains you? What have you been tolerating that no longer matches who you are becoming? These questions aren't surface level. They cut deep. And as you ask them, you'll start to see. Every choice you make is either a mirror of your truth or a mask you're still wearing. Authentic living requires courage, but also structure. This isn't about abandoning responsibility or chasing impulse. It's about building a life that reflects your essence in action. Start simple. Every morning, ask yourself, what would it look like to live 1% more honestly today? Then, listen. Follow that nudge, no matter how small. It might mean speaking your needs, canceling the call you didn't have energy for, or simply dressing in a way that finally feels like you. Each act of honesty recalibrates your vibration. Each step toward authenticity makes it harder to go back to the performance. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more you live in alignment, the less validation you need. Because now, you're not trying to prove your worth, you're expressing it. You're not chasing acceptance, you're attracting resonance. You're not asking, am I doing this right? You're asking, does this feel right to my soul? That shift is everything. Because when your inner world aligns with your outer expression, you create a life that reflects who you truly are, not just who the world told you to be. And that's when synchronicity appears. That's when the right people find you. The right opportunities flow. The universe responds not to the mask you wore, but to the energy you finally embodied. This is living authentically, not as a goal, but as a practice, a commitment to return again and again to who you were before the world told you to forget. But living from truth isn't an idea, it's a rhythm. And without a rhythm, the world will pull you back into the mask. Because without it, the noise of the world will pull you back. You need daily anchors, rituals that keep your energy tuned, practices that remind you who you are and why you came here. And we'll get to that next. Because living aligned with your soul's truth isn't just about knowing who you are, it's about building your life around it. Knowing your truth is powerful. Living it consistently, quietly, in the details of daily life. That's mastery. We often think spiritual growth happens in the dramatic moments, the breakdowns, the breakthroughs, the lightning flashes of clarity. But real transformation, it shows up in how you start your day, in how you breathe through conflict, in the choices you make when no one's watching. This is the heart of integration. Taking everything you've remembered, your soul contracts, your blueprint, your truth, and weaving it into the fabric of your ordinary life. Because the most profound awakening isn't about escaping the world, it's about infusing it with consciousness. So how do you do that? You build your day like a temple, not perfect, not rigid, but intentional, aligned with who you truly are. Let's walk through what that looks like. Not in theory and practice. Morning, aligning with your Dharma. The first moments after waking are sacred. Your subconscious is still open, your energy uncluttered. This is where you plant the direction for the day. Before reaching for your phone, before checking messages or to-do lists, pause. Place one hand over your heart. Take 3 slow breaths. Feel your body arrive into the moment. Then ask, how can I live in alignment with my Dharma today? Dharma isn't always some grand mission. It's your energetic responsibility, how you show up, who you become, how you serve. Maybe your Dharma today is to speak with clarity. Maybe it's to bring patience to your relationships. Maybe it's to rest. Whatever arises, honor it. Then write it down. This simple act of morning reflection activates inner coherence. It sets the tone for everything that follows. Midday, breath, presence, and reset. The world moves fast, and by midday, you might find yourself pulled off center, reacting, overthinking, caught in the loops of doing. This is your checkpoint. Take 5 minutes, yes, just 5. Close your eyes. Place your attention on your breath. Inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Repeat. Let the breath become your anchor, pulling you back into the now. Then, ask yourself, where am I operating from? Fear, ego, or soul? Be honest. No judgment. This moment of reset recalibrates your field. It allows your highest self to step back into the driver's seat. If needed, revisit your morning dharma, realign, recommit, and then continue your day not on autopilot, but in conscious flow, evening stillness, integration, and closure. How you end the day is just as important as how you begin it. The energy you carry into rest becomes the foundation of your next day. Before sleep, take 10 minutes for reflection. You can journal or simply sit in stillness. Ask, where did I live in alignment today? Where did I abandon myself? And why? What am I ready to release before tomorrow begins? This is not a space for self-judgment. It's a space for integration. Celebrate the moments you honored your truth. Gently acknowledge where you bypassed it. Then, speak gratitude aloud or in your heart. Gratitude is the energetic glue that binds awareness to embodiment. It grounds what you've learned so it can shape who you become. And finally, one last breath. Long, deep, present. As you exhale, let go of the day. Integration isn't complicated. It's consistent. You don't need 100 new habits. You need a few practices done with presence, repeated with love, refined with time. The soul doesn't demand perfection. It asks for sincerity. So whether you journal for 10 minutes or take 3 conscious breaths in a quiet hallway, what matters is intention. What matters is remembering that your time is the soil where your soul takes root. And how you spend your hours shapes the quality of your reality. Here's one more secret. Integration is contagious. When you show up grounded, you give others permission to do the same. When you speak from truth, you ripple integrity through your relationships. When you live from soul, you become a tuning fork, pulling the world into higher resonance. And that's the real shift. It doesn't stop with you. It spreads through you. One aligned breath, one embodied moment, one ordinary choice at a time. So build your day like a sacred practice. Not because you have to, but because your soul remembers how, and now so do you. There's something shifting. You felt it, haven't you? An invisible current, a rising frequency in the background of everything. It's in the questions people are asking, in the systems being questioned, in the quiet, knowing that something bigger is unfolding. This is not just personal, this is collective. We're living through a time of global awakening, a mass remembering of what it truly means to be human. But what does that actually mean? It means that across the world, people are starting to sense the deeper truth behind the illusion. They're waking up from the dream of control, division, and fear, and realizing that the world they've inherited doesn't reflect the world their soul knows is possible. This awakening doesn't always look like light and peace. Sometimes it looks like collapse. Sometimes it feels like chaos. Because old systems, the ones built on hierarchy, suppression, and separation, have to dissolve to make space for something more aligned. Education is shifting. Young people are no longer satisfied memorizing facts. They're seeking truth, emotional intelligence, purpose. Teachers around the world are blending ancient wisdom with modern science, introducing mindfulness, creativity, even meditation into classrooms. Because true learning isn't just intellectual, it's spiritual. Business is shifting. The old model of burnout, extraction, and domination is breaking down. In its place, a new paradigm of conscious entrepreneurship, soul-led missions, and companies that prioritize human well-being over endless profit. Workplaces are becoming temples for purpose, and leadership is being redefined by presence, clarity, and service. The creative world is shifting. Art is no longer just entertainment. It's activation. Music, film, design, storytelling. They're becoming vehicles for awakening. And creators like you are realizing your voice is a frequency. Your vision is medicine. Even healing is shifting. We're moving beyond symptom control. We're starting to remember that the body is energy. That trauma is stored in the field. That true healing isn't fixing, it's reintegration. Somatic therapies, breath work, energy work. They're no longer fringe. They're becoming foundational. Because when one person heals, they don't just shift their own life. They shift generations of patterns. They shift the collective, and that's the deeper truth. You're not separate from this awakening. You are part of it. Every time you speak your truth, every time you choose presence over reaction, every time you lead from heart instead of fear, you're anchoring the new reality on this planet. Not just for you, but for everyone. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware, being intentional, being aligned with what you came here to do. You see, awakening isn't just a feeling, it's a responsibility. The moment you remember who you are, you remember your role in the larger whole. You stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" From the deepest truth of who I am. You realize you didn't come here to fit in. You came here to tune in, to remember, to live as the soul you always were in a world that forgot. That's why this moment matters so much. Because right now, millions of people are on the edge of their own awakening. They're scared, confused, curious, and what they need isn't more information. They need examples. They need people who are living this truth calmly, quietly, consistently. People like you. So, here's the question. What ripple do you want to send into the collective field? What signal are you broadcasting with your life? Your energy? Your choices? Because every moment you live aligned with your soul, you strengthen the new frequency that's being born. You help dissolve the old and build the new. And no action is too small. A child you speak gently to. A co-worker you treat with compassion. A business you build with integrity. A boundary you hold with love. This is how worlds shift. Not with noise. Not with battle. But with resonance. You didn't come here to escape the world. You came here to recalibrate it by remembering who you are and living from that place every single day. So pause, breathe, feel that in your chest. The awakening isn't just happening out there. It's happening through you, right now. And when you remember who you are, you remember your power. So how do you reclaim that power daily, tangibly, with structure? It begins with practice. You were never just a character in someone else's story. You were the author from the very beginning. Before you took your first breath, your soul chose this life. The people, the patterns, the pain. Not as punishment, but as possibility, because deep down, your soul knew the truth. That life is not happening to you. It's happening through you. And now you're beginning to remember. You're remembering that challenges were teachers, that heartbreaks were catalysts, that nothing was random, not even this moment. You were guided here, not by chance, but by alignment, because there's a deeper part of you, an ancient, wise, unbreakable part that's been whispering the same message for lifetimes. It's time to wake up. It's time to come home. It's time to reclaim the power you forgot you had. And if you feel that whisper stirring within you, then this is your sign. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are right on time, right where you're meant to be. But awakening is just the beginning. The real shift. It starts with what you do next. Because remembering your soul blueprint means more than just knowing it. It means living it. Living as if your energy matters. Because it does. Living as if your voice changes the field. Because it does. Living as if your presence heals others just by being real. Because it does. So here's your invitation. If this message stirred something in you, if it felt less like new information and more like ancient truth you already knew, then it's time. Drop the words Soul Blueprint in the comments. As a declaration, as an intention, as a signal to your soul that you're ready to remember who you are, ready to live on purpose. And if you want to walk this path with others, you don't have to do it alone. Join the community, a space where awakening souls connect, support, and grow together, where you can ask questions, share stories, and anchor deeper into your truth. We rise faster together. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more transformational content like this. This is not just a YouTube page. It's a portal. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next step in your journey. And if you want to go deeper, join the newsletter, a weekly dose of grounded wisdom, soul science, and practical tools delivered straight to your inbox. Because the journey doesn't stop here. It's just beginning. Remember, you are the author. You are the architect. You are the field. Now go write the next chapter from your highest truth. The world is waiting. I'll see you in the next video.